The Center for Disease Control and Prevention stated that in 2010, more than 1/3 of children and adolescents are obese or overweight. This not only affects children in America, but it actually affects children all over the world. You see these facts become a reality anytime you visit a public place, including grocery stores, schools, or water parks. Today we're going to discuss some of the history of childhood obesity, 3 of the main causes, which are inadequate exercise, excessive snacking, genetics, and then we'll also talk about some of the health risks associated, which are sleep apnea, prediabetes, and bone and joint problems. Early on, obesity was looked at much differently. During the Middle Ages, people who were obese were often seen as being wealthy or having higher status. This was displayed in many Disney movies, with the main characters or the leaders often being overweight or obese. Often obese people were not even discriminated in the workplace until the mid-20th century, when scientists discovered many health risks associated with the disease. And as we know today, obesity is much opposite. These children have low self-esteem, they often do not participate in group activities, and they often develop eating disorders to help fix their body image. Although the history of obesity has changed drastically, the causes often remain the same. Inadequate exercise is one of the main causes of childhood obesity. The average person burns around 75 calories an hour sitting and 150 calories an hour walking. This makes it almost impossible for a child to sit around all day and maintain or lose their weight. It's also recommended that a child has 60 minutes a day of exercise. But as we know, gym classes are not every day and not 60 minutes long. And then when children go home, they're often influenced by technology, and they do not want to get off their fascinating devices to go outside and play and exercise. Another main cause is excessive snacking. Often labels fool consumers because they often say that they are a healthier choice, like Pop-Tarts, for instance, say that they have fiber or 7 minerals and vitamins, but if we really look at the sugars, then it's around 40 grams, which is a very unhealthy choice. Then some children eat out of boredom. Another main cause is genetics. A lot of people are born with different body shapes. Some people have broader shoulders or wider hips and often have different metabolism rates. For instance, I can eat as much as I want and either maintain or I can keep the same weight, rather than some of my friends can barely even eat anything without gaining weight. Now that we know some of the causes, we can now look at some of the health risks. Prediabetes is a major health risk for children with obesity. Prediabetes is the pancreas's inability to produce enough insulin, causing sugar levels in the blood to rise. High sugar levels can be deadly or often cause hyperglycemic shock. There is also respiratory problems associated with childhood obesity. This affects a child's breathing and ability to do long-lasting activities. One of the biggest respiratory problems is sleep apnea, which is irregular breathing patterns in a child's sleep. A child could actually stop breathing for prolonged periods of time throughout their sleep. And there is also bone and joint problems. The pressure of the weight on a child's knees and feet often causes irritation in the joints or replacements later on in life. Many children all over the world struggle with obesity. It affects their body image, their self-esteem, their interaction with others, and many of their body systems. Learning the history, the causes, and the health risks is very beneficial. Today we learned how the history of childhood obesity has changed. It was once a disease that was looked at as being wealthy or high status, and it's now looked at as being lazy. And then we also talked about some of the causes. 3 of the main causes that we discussed were inadequate exercise, excessive snacking, and genetics. Then we talked about some of the health risks. 3 of the health risks we discussed were sleep apnea, prediabetes, and bone and joint disorders. Advertisements and articles don't often stick in our heads, but childhood obesity has doubled in children and tripled in adolescents in the past 30 years. This number is even growing. Being aware of the reality can help you as listeners better understand what these children are going through, and it can also help you as listeners